What to do, YouTube? Thanks for checking out today's video.
I mean, people, you can say whatever you want about him. He's a great marketer. Him and his brother are doing a great job with that aspect of it.
We said it during the thing. They're doing a great job of staying relevant through however many years, you know.
Yeah. And I think he's going to continue to do that. And like, just even if he gets a title shot and doesn't win, that would be crazy that some YouTuber Disney kid just decided to become a boxer and got a title shot. It would be nuts.
I was resonating a little bit on what he said was I've had 4 fights in 13 months, and the only other boxer doing my type of numbers is Canelo. And I had to sit there and resonate on that for a minute. I'm like, wow, he's right. That's insane. But he's doing a lot for the sport, more than he could do for other people, or more than what other fighters could do for the sport. I'm interested to see what the next call-outs will be. I don't think it's going to be Tommy Fury. I think he made us some good call-outs in the ring. Jorge immediately responded with what he responded with, like, little boy, you don't want it, I ain't going to box you. You can come into the UFC ring and I'll break your back. Which is exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
Jake Paul doesn't even beat a non-ranked fighter,
What's crazy though is I agree with you, but what's even funnier is Jake Paul's probably, he talked about like how he used to be a wrestler. He's probably a better wrestler than he is a boxer.
Oh, I would probably think that.
Because he did wrestle at a college level, which means he's probably more experienced in wrestling than he is boxing. And I think that that would be crazy to see. I think he would get destroyed.
He would fight at middleweight.
Yeah.
So just think about that middleweight weight class in the UFC, right? Like, he's talking about fighting Jorge, who usually fights, welterweight, who can fight middleweight, don't get me wrong. But he would get destroyed in middleweight, dude. He weighed in at like 192. I'm sure he'd cut weight, but you still
have to cut. There's no UFC top 15, top 20, I don't think, middleweight that would lose to him.
No.
Or welterweight, but still.
And he's called out some of those guys. But the guy that he did call out, Nate Diaz, which I think for boxing,
I think could happen,
is actually going to be a good fight. I think Nate Diaz I think he knows where he's at in his career. I don't think he's going to make a title run. I think, you're close to being at the end of you, whatever. Why not retire? You know what I mean? Why not retire early? And I think one money fight in the UFC.
I gotta say this though, because it made me laugh so much. Where Nate Diaz, they asked him about Conor McGregor, and he said he's gonna need a few more wins before he can fight me.
Yeah, I know that was. No, but like,
made me laugh so much because when's the last time Nate Diaz has won a fight?
Oh my God, yeah, and that's what that's what I'm talking about. I think he needs to take his last 2 money fights and retire. You take your last UFC, which you said he signed his extension, right?
Yeah, he got an extra fight apparently.
So that's pretty interesting. And I don't know how true that is, but if that is true, that's interesting. But if it's not true, I say you just take your money fight, or you take Dustin and then you take Conor, and maybe that's what the extension was about. But that's 2 UFC money fights that you can get right there, and then you retire on a Jake Paul boxing fight. That's an all right life. I think he'll go into the Hall of Fame. He's a great fighter. He did a lot for the sport.
Yeah, I just looked it up. UFC extends Nate Diaz's contract and moves away from idea of him fighting Khamzat.
Yeah, he doesn't need to.
Well, Conor. So that makes more sense than anything else. So now if they extend him, he's got one more. So he's got 2 fights. Let him fight the Dustin Poirier fight and let him fight the Conor McGregor fight. Whether he wins or loses, there'll be huge fights. He can still get either, no matter what the outcome
exactly
is. And then, do that Jake Paul fight, because let's be real, that extension could be, he could fight both of those fights this year.
Yep.
Obviously, Poirier would be the first.
Well, they're talking about they're trying to fight in February. Conor should be ready in July. They said somewhere around that time.
He's going to be a little longer. So Poirier would be first, and then fight Conor afterwards. And then after that, he could roll into that Jake Paul, that money type of fight.
I agree.
Which would be great for him.
Yeah,
especially because that's the one fight out of those 3 that I think he could win.
Sure. And like I said, he just needs that's a great retirement. He's done a lot in his life, from everyone remember his name coming up on the Ultimate Fighter, and then him doing everything he can, calling out Conor McGregor, that making him just a huge household name for not just MMA fans, just people know Nate Diaz now, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so yeah, I think that's a great fight for Jake Paul as well, because I don't think I don't think Jake Paul's gonna fight until that fight, honestly. Like Jake Paul says he wants to take a vacation. So who knows how long that'll be, how long that layoff would be, and then you go for a training camp.
I, yeah, but I think that for Jake Paul, I think out of pride, he's going to have to box a boxer. He's going to have to do
And
it.
it'll be a nobody if we're being
Who is
real.
that boxer? It's I think it's still going to be Tommy Fury. I mean, I know what he's saying, but he also said he wouldn't do a Tyron Woodley rematch, and then all of a sudden he hyped it up. So he's smart, and I think a Tommy Fury fight still makes sense. That's still the biggest no name boxer he could fight.
I agree.
Because he could pull a random no name, but that's not going to sell. Tommy Fury will still actually sell because he's got a family name behind him,
That's true.
and that's the safest bet for him.
I agree.